find a scholarship off of FastWeb, or maybe you'll see some type of scholarship program that's affiliated with the university, but you send it to a separate entity that's affiliated that makes a decision that actually says that you can apply as a junior. Why not? If you can knock out, you know, $3,000, $5,000, $8,000 off of your tuition, because you know you're going to have to pay more than that, why not do it now? That's a great summer project. But for seniors, it's still not too late, okay? And this is somewhat on the subject, but I guess not. I always encourage folks, and this is really on my timeline, that you visit the schools that you're interested in. I say if you can do it your second semester junior year, do it. If not, do it as early as possible in your senior year. You do not want to be coming back from Christmas, okay, for those who celebrate, but from the December, January break, trying to visit schools. Their applications is going to be due in like a month or two, okay? So I kind of throw that out there because then that's when you start to find out. You can go to the financial aid scholarship session at your school, and then they'll talk you through the process specifically of how they award scholarships at that school, and you will start to see some consistency, but you can hear from them and ask them questions, and then start to figure out, is this a realistic school for me to be able to attend? Because for most folks, how much it costs is going to help make the decision, but again, I want to encourage you not to be discouraged because of the cost, okay? Last website, finaid.org, okay? It's just a website of basic information, types of financial aid, applying for aid at your schools of choice. And it's kind of just an overall general broad, but they're going to cover all the specific pieces that any financial aid process is going to have at the school, as well as link you to other opportunities to apply for monies, okay? This hasn't been handed out. This is what can be emailed though, but I'll give you this. This is other. Yeah, and the yes, it should be. It should be. If not, okay, it is okay. Yeah, what was passed out was a great resource that they gave me when I got here, actually, that encompasses some of the stuff that I talked about and then some other stuff as well too. But the biggest advice I can give you all is just to take time to get on the internet. Mom, Dad, if you all are at work on lunch and you have a few extra minutes, just do a search. You'll be surprised what you'll come up with that your student won't, okay? And don't be afraid to apply for stuff if you just think that you just have you're not qualified by no means. Go ahead and apply for it because you never know. And you can't send out too many, but just make sure you stay organized. I definitely say get you one of them little travel organizer with the file folders that you can take with you, and go ahead and separate all that stuff up. I promise you, you will benefit from it. When I heard that father tell me how much they found, and it was in, and the way I add this, all the programs were in Virginia. Blew my mind. I had to update my presentation immediately because I just didn't think it was that possible to find that much money that goes unused in this state, you know what I'm saying, to plan for college. But it's possible. I talked to him and I saw it, okay? I also like to share the story about one of my mentees in Missouri. Student, because he was first generation, so he had to figure a lot of stuff out on his own. Well, within his senior year of high school, he took time during his lunch, sometimes in class, which I do not promote, by the way, you should be paying attention, but he applied for so many scholarships that he was able to supplement on his own. Okay, no help from anyone, the money that the school in Missouri did not pay for. So his entire schooling for about 4.5 years, because he was an engineer, was paid for. Okay, he was able to also get his laptop that he needed, the school supplies, and some stuff was able to supplement some of his living. And he did a study abroad program as well too. So it's possible. Now that was 4.5 years ago. It's so much easier now. There's so much more opportunity now. You just gotta know where to look. Okay? Any questions before I talk briefly about a timeline? Yes.
We've been on the website before because we have other children.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to find local scholarships without going through a myriad of, like, you know, State Farm and Elks and Moose? Because local ones, it might be a nice way to kind of start.
I say think about all your affiliations. Start there, and then that should lead you to other places. Because when you talk about internet resources, because I know the title is a little bit misleading, there is no one-stop shop. You know, depending on where you go, you can get over-inundated. You know, I'm a Bing person versus Google because I feel that my stuff comes up more specific versus taking me everywhere. I feel like that commercial that they have, literally. However, the school's going to provide you with a certain amount of information. From there, branch out. Think about where you're affiliated, your friends, your family are affiliated, your jobs, and go from there. Ask around with the circles and the organizations that you're a part of.
And they have the nice thing through the counseling department here.
Yeah, anything that this school is sending you, take it and run with it. Because a lot of schools are not even doing that. I've seen both scenarios. I've seen folks who've been over inundated, and it's been so much that they find it hard to tailor it down to make it worthwhile of a process to folks who are getting no help at all. But you have to take the time. And for the students, again, I can't stress this, you cannot throw this on mom and dad. And mom and dad honestly shouldn't be begging you to do this. Because someone's got to make up the money. It's either going to be you or it's going to be your parents. My parents took out the smallest possible loan, because at the time that's what they can do. So I had to bear the brunt. And if I had someone like me talk to me back when I was in school, I probably wouldn't have as much now. I'm still appreciative of it, but I'm just saying, that's part of why I do this. I don't want anyone to have to pay what I'm going to have to pay, okay? Any other questions? Okay, let me talk a little bit about a timeline. And like I said, for those who might have came in late, if you take one of my cards, I can email this to you. That's going to give you direct links. And so when you talk about when to start doing stuff, this little timeline is for students going to college, and it kind of just breaks it down. In the fall, there's a couple things. I already mentioned visiting the schools. Fall is a great time to look at colleges because the students are there. You can actually talk to the students and find out what it's really like. Don't just believe the YouTube video and the blog and the Facebook page. Go and talk to folks who are on campus. And she gave a great tip about looking at the first to second year retention. I have been blessed enough that I've been able to work at schools that have exceptionally good first and second year retention rates, which does speak to the school, the students, and how they're faring there at the school. If they like it, how they're doing in their schoolwork, the social outlet, all of that good stuff. Okay, so you want to make sure you do that. I always suggest open houses. Most schools have open houses in October and November. Again, as a senior, you can still go, but before you go to those open houses, you need to have an idea and done your own research if these schools are really ones that you're looking at. Don't be driving mom and dad, having them fly all over the country, going to these schools, and you really haven't done any research. Okay, and if I'm not mistaken, you all can take a day or two from here, right, to go visit schools and it not count against you, right? Don't they give you little passes?
I think so.
Yeah, I think most schools in Virginia do that. Take advantage of that. If they give you 3, take them. And a lot of open houses actually have Saturday ones, so you can leave school early on a Friday and go up there, hang out, and come back. Or you can do what a couple students did when I was in, because I used to be in admissions at Tech. They did their own little college tour. So they were hitting up Tech, and on their way back, they was doing UVA, they was doing, you know, JMU. I mean, they was doing a bunch of different schools back to their hometown. That's a great way to maximize while you're being out of school, but then also to monies. But students, don't have your parents driving you, spending money, taking you all over the place, and you're not even going, you either don't qualify, which is, you know, sometimes happens, but you're not even looking at the school. Okay, plan ahead. And then for juniors, I suggest you do it in the spring semester. You know, if you all want to go get it and do it this semester, that's great. I suggest the spring semester as you're starting to take your standardized test scores too, but I'm going to get into that. You want to finalize your college list. And I think all this information I'm sharing is not too soon even for the seniors. You all can be doing all of this now, but you probably want to jump on it quickly and have it done, in my professional opinion, by October 15th or 20th. For the simple fact, some folks are having open houses in October. So if you haven't done it now, you still have about 2 weeks left in September to finalize your list. Okay? And I always say you want to do, what time? Okay. I always say you want to do a range of schools. You want to have your dream school. You don't know if you can get into it. You know, maybe your parents know if you can or not, but maybe you don't know if you can get into it, but this is where you always wanted to go, versus the lower spectrum, which is a school that you know you can get into, okay? That's not negative. I don't think that's negative at all. You want to have that spectrum. Everything else kind of falls in. Then you have your middle, which is your neutral school. You don't care if you can get into it or not. Not to be negative, I'm just saying you need to have that spectrum. I say about 5 to 6 schools, depending on if you can afford the application fees, is definitely reasonable. You also want to have some community colleges in there as well too. I've done some great work with the community college system, more so in Missouri because that's my hometown, and I know what they do have to offer. She gave a really good point. That's another thing to consider. Okay, sometimes students do a dual to knock out their courses a lot quicker. I did that as well too. Okay. You want to make sure that you stay on track with your grades and extracurricular activities, and I also say you want to make sure that you're not so involved that your grades are slipping. And she talked about senior year is not the time for you to give up. I know we have senioritis, but that could be very detrimental because what's different here in Virginia is that depending on what schools you apply for, if your senior year is not that hot, they will revoke the admissions decision. At least I know when I worked in admissions at Tech, they do that, and they still do. You know, I think UVA does it as well too. So you just want to make sure that you stay on track okay? Especially if you're gonna be reporting your extracurricular activities, you wanna finish on a good note. That may be a possible reference for you. Of course, take standardized test scores. She talked about taking the tests and submitting them and taking them at certain times. I tell all of the students that I coach and families that I work with, you need to take the standardized test as many times as you possibly can. Mentally possibly can handle, and also financially. Juniors, you should be taking it, okay? For those of you who are seniors, unless you got the highest of highest score, and I say this to folks, you need to be still taking the test. All the way up until the drop-down deadline of your application. Why? Because you're going to maximize the opportunities for money to be able to go to whatever school. Okay? Again, not all scholarships are merit-based. However, a significant amount of them with your award letter from any school is going to be merit-based. So you want to keep taking that test. Even if you get, let's say a 27 on the ACT, Missouri's an ACT state. Still take it. I told my little cousins, yes, I know you can get scholarships starting at 21, and yes, I know you can get a significant amount at 24, 25, but that's not good enough. I want you to get it higher. Why not? You still have time, okay? I know that SATs are more promoted here, but if you can, take both of them and see which one you do better on. Okay, I know that they prepare you more so for the SAT, but I can tell you the ACT is very, very user-friendly. Not easier, it's more user-friendly. And sometimes folks score better with that type of format versus the SAT.
A lot of colleges do super scoring. Is it different scholarships up to super scoring?
I don't know if the scholarship folks do super scoring because every school is different. So in some schools, admissions also does the scholarship stuff. Where I was at in Missouri, we did that, but we were a smaller state school. But a lot of the state schools and bigger private schools here, not so much. It's totally separate. Now, some schools, when admissions gets your information, your standardized test scores, they plug it into the system, and that's what everyone else uses. But not every school does that. So that's a question that you need to make sure you ask the school. You do not want to assume that they super score unless they tell you that they do.
ABA does, is what I'm saying. I don't know if the scholarship people use the same information.
That may be a good question just to email them and ask them. Because and UVA may be one of those schools that admissions receives that information, puts it into the system, and whoever has access to that gets to see it. If so, that's a good thing. That means you know your higher scores are going into the system. But I don't think every school does that. So you have to ask. That's a good question, though. Ask for letters of recommendation. I would even take a step back and say, make sure the school wants letters of recommendation. Not every school wants a letter of recommendation, depending on the size of the school. Okay? And if they say letter of recommendations will be accepted, but it's not required, I wouldn't even worry about it, to be honest with you. I wouldn't even worry about it. And again, I think it depends on the school. But if they're not asking for it, or if they flat out tell you do not send letters of recommendation, don't even worry about that. However, some of the schools you apply to are going to want them. And clearly, for scholarships and stuff, you may have to submit something. Depending on the outside scholarships, they may actually want a recommendation from someone who can attest to whatever it is you're applying for and why. So just make sure that you understand that. You want to meet with your guidance counselor so they'll know exactly what schools you're applying for, because a lot of them are going to be sending something on your behalf. They're the ones who are going to take the phone call when your application is not complete. You kind of want to let them know what where you're applying. And also, too, they're going to counsel you on the different schools that you're applying to, if you should be looking at them, if you should not be. That's not to discourage you. That's to have a real conversation with you, okay? As well as you want to make sure that you complete your applications. Again, this is all stuff to be done in the fall. And you're always continuing your scholarship search. That never stops. It should have started before the fall. It's going to continue after the fall. Okay? And I even say if you run into outside scholarships, let's say you all find a site with a scholarship and it's past due, but you can apply for it next year, or they're due them in quarters, print it out, apply for it in the middle of your freshman year. Why not? All money's good, as long as it's green and they accept it. Okay? Now that's for the fall. For the winter, some stuff that you want to be doing is following up on your applications. Again, that's where your counselor comes into play. They need to be in the loop of what is going on, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to be the ones that are probably going to call for you anyway. And then also, too, and I talked about this, submitting your financial aid forms. The deadlines are different at the schools. However, March 1st is a priority deadline for FAFSA. A lot of schools have general scholarship apps to be considered for merit-based scholarships, or if there's departmental scholarships, they may use March 1st as a priority deadline. You just need to make sure that you know what those are and follow up on them and make sure they are complete. A lot of schools or a lot of entities are not going to let you know that stuff is incomplete. It's your responsibility. You need to make sure that it gets there, okay? Now in the spring, you want to be watching your mail for notifications from colleges. Not only your snail mail, but also your email. And she gave a really good point. I talk about this all the time. You know, Hot Mama Cheerleader 2016. Please don't put that down on anything. And Mom and Dad, I really do love you all. I really do. However, don't use your email address. Encourage and empower your student to get their own and to check it. You help to remind them to check it. You do not check it for them. You remind them. And I'm only saying that with so much love as someone who works with college students as well as high schoolers, is because they've got to have that responsibility. And students, if you don't want your parents to be doing this, I used to do this. When my parents would do, I was like, okay, here they go. Be responsible. Create an email address, check it regularly. Once you start sending stuff out, you need to start looking at it. Okay? You're going to get on a lot of schools' distribution email lists. They're going to be sending you stuff out. Not just in the mail, via email. Check it. Don't wait till you get like 100 in there and then you start to just go through them very loosely. You don't want to do that. You may be missing out on an opportunity. All right? You also want to check and make sure if you've been put on the wait list what your status is. A lot of schools may offer you an opportunity on the wait list, and you need to know what that wait list process is. How, you know, when do they start to take folks off the wait list, and then what does that mean? Because clearly it's going to be after the deadline of when you need to make a decision, or if it's right before the deadline, you need to know what that looks like when you talk about your financial aid award letter and making those decisions. But you should already know what it is. You should have already asked before you applied, okay? You want to make sure you compare financial aid packages. So remember, every school is going to use the information of FAFSA to build your award letter. I've been referring to this award letter. It's literally a package with a letter that's going to include all this information and outline what you was offered, what you can take advantage of, and you have to either accept it or not. They're not going to ask you, they're not going to remind you to send it in. You have to know to do that. You want to take those letters and look and see where your best package is at. And hopefully, because you listened to Sunny, because you came tonight, you would have had all these other resources that you find that you could partner up with your award letters and then make the best decision. That's a great place to be in. And for the parents, you still may have like 1,000, maybe to 3,500, 4,000 to kind of pick up. But that's better than having what she talked about, 11. Or I've seen some folks that didn't have anything. The guy who didn't do FAFSA, he was expected to pay like $21,500. Clearly, he stayed at home for a year, okay? So you just want to make sure that you do that. Of course, you're going to be making your final college decision. May 1st is a national deadline. Every school should be giving you to May 1st to make your college decision, even with scholarships, okay? That is a national deadline that we have to abide by, okay? Any financial aid information you feel you didn't get, or maybe you thought you might have qualified, let's say, for a Pell Grant, you need to make sure that you are following up. Do not wait to the last minute. And honestly, well, I guess you will in the spring because most schools are going to send it out around April. You just don't want to wait on following up. If you have any questions, something is missing, you didn't get your award letter because maybe you typed in your address wrong on the FAFSA, which happens. If that information is misspelled or there's a typo, you won't receive something and won't even know it. Parents, please do not wait until you get close to May to start figuring out why you still haven't received anything. Please don't. If you got to bug these offices or whomever, bug them. It's better to bug them and to know something's happening versus waiting till May 15th and there's something was a typo and you didn't call and get it fixed. Because that's a hassle to get that stuff fixed. Okay? Any other enrollment paperwork for your college, for the college of your choice, this is the time to be doing it towards the end of the spring. Okay? That can be housing, and from some of you who may want to stay in themed housing, they may actually have a different process. Those dates may be different from other financial aid stuff. So there's a lot of dates, guys. That's why I said this timeline of dates, you need to be building it now for your schools.